Salvete discipuli, amici, comites et ceteri. Hodie loquemur de verbis deponentibus. Okay, deponent verbs. So what makes a verb deponent? A deponent verb puts down its active endings and only keeps the passive endings. So other verbs have both active and passive endings, but you'll never see active endings on a deponent verb. What makes them unique and special is that, although they look like passive verbs based on their endings, they're active in meaning. So let's see what this looks like. We have amo amare, which is our regular verb, and vereor, vereri, veretus sum. What do you notice about these? Well, for starters, look at the first principal part. Vereor, its first principal part, looks like a passive, a present passive. Its infinitive looks like, well, a present passive infinitive. And its perfect looks like a perfect passive. So, as you can see, it has passive forms. But if you look at the meaning is still active. This is the way that I like to remember my passive endings. This is the passive pirate. He's our friend. And he always finishes his sentences by saying "are." By remembering that, you can remember that your passive endings, except for one, which for some reason doesn't like to follow the rule, always have the letter R in them. So if you look at your active voice endings on the left, you see OST, mustes sunt, which hopefully you're already quite familiar with. If you look at your passive endings, you have or, ris, tur, mer, mini, enter. And look at the way that on the left side you have O, and on the right side you have or. On the left side you have S, on the right side you have ris. So take a moment and just see how the endings are related to each other. Alright. And now if you could, please take some time to write these down, practice them, get them into your head. You can pause the video for a moment, and then we will move on. On the next slide, we're going to go through our two example verbs, amo and vereor. Amo will be in the present passive, and vereor will be in the present active. You'll see clearly how deponents are passive in form, but active in meaning. Ready? Okay, pedagamos. So I've given you the first person for each, and I want to see if you can figure out each coming verb form before I say it. If you have to pause before we move on to the next section, please feel free. Note that amo amare is first conjugation, which is the A conjugation, while vereor is second conjugation, which is the one with the long E. So, here we go. Amor, I am loved. Vereor, I fear. Amaris, you are loved. Vereris, you fear. Amator, he, she, it is loved. Veretur, he fears. Amamur, we are loved. Veremur, we fear. Amamini, y'all, or you plural if you prefer, are loved. Veremini, y'all fear. And amantur, they are loved. Verentur, they fear. Here are two example sentences for the present passives and deponents. We have the flowers are loved by the girls, and the boys try to send a letter. The verb is conor conari conatus sum. That's your deponent verb there. And as you can tell by the A in conari, that is first conjugation. So it's going to look like amor amare on the slide before. For the answers, click Show More on the YouTube video, and you should have labels number 1 and 2, and the answers will be there. This is our imperfect passive pirate. He is like his brother. Of course, he always finishes a sentence by saying "are," but he never goes anywhere without his pet sheep, who he has named Ba. How does this help us remember our imperfect passive endings? Well, bar, baris, batur, bomber, bomini, bantur. As you can see, except for our mini, which for some reason always likes to be different, we have the ba and we have the r. So we have the sheep and we have the pirate. So take some time now to learn the endings, write them down, get them into your mind. Bene? Eamus ad paginam proximam. Again, we'll go through the endings and the meanings using amo, amare, and verentur. I'll give a short pause before the next forms, and I'd like you to try to do the following ones before I do, and pause the video if necessary to do this. Starting with the ma bar, I was loved, and vere bar, I was fearing, I was afraid, I used to fear. We'll go through everything. Note one more time that amo amare is first conjugation, the a conjugation, whereas verentur is the second conjugation, the long e conjugation. So they'll keep those vowels. Ready? Second person singular. Amabaris, you were loved. Verebaris, you were fearing. Third person singular. Amabatur, he was loved. Verebatur, he was fearing. First person plural. Amabamur, we were loved. Verebamur, we were fearing. Second person plural. Amabamini, y'all were loved, or you plural were loved. Verebamini, y'all were fearing. Third person plural. Amabantur, they were loved. Verebantur, they were fearing. Okay, now that we have all the forms, let's move on to our example sentences. So here are your imperfect example sentences. Number 4, the Gauls were being captured by the Romans, or the Gauls were captured by the Romans. You can translate it either way. Capio, capere, capi. And number 5, the girls were trying to flee the fight. And there we have conor, conare, for trying again. So take a minute to do those, and those will be available under the See More tab on the YouTube video. So let's do a quick review. Do we remember the passive pirate? R. To remember the imperfect passive pirate? Ba. Omnia bene habent. Ita. Bene. Extendamus ad tempus futurum. Tempus futurum. Yes, there is another. This is Mr. Boring. He is the future passive pirate. He doesn't look quite as buccaneerish as either of his brothers. However, he is in fact a pirate because he is a corporate raider. We call him Mr. Boring to remind us of the B-O-R, which, as you've probably guessed, is going to figure into our future passive and deponent endings. So let's take a look. Here's our future passive on the right, and our future active is on the left. And again, even with this one, it's quite clear that they are very well related to each other. Bo becomes bor, bis becomes beris, bit becomes bitter, bimus becomes bimmer, bitus becomes bimini, and bunt becomes buntor. So, again, take some time, write these down, get them emblazoned and bold onto your brains, get some rhythm to conjugating the verb, bor, beris, bitter, bimmer, bimini, bunter. When you're ready, we'll do amo amare again, first conjugation, a conjugation, and verentur for the second conjugation. And here we go. Amabor, I shall be loved. Verebor, I shall fear. Second person singular. Amaberis, you will be loved. Erroribus, you will fear. Third person singular, I chose feminine for this one. She will be loved. Amabitur, he will fear. I chose she will be loved because it reminded me of the Maroon 5 song of the same name. Amabitur, we will be loved. Amabitur, we will fear. Second person plural. Amabimini, y'all, or you plural, will be loved. Amabitur, y'all will fear. And finally, amabuntur, they will be loved. Amabitur, they will fear. But there is one more thing of note in the future. So just like in the active voice, passive endings for the third and fourth conjugation in the future come from a different system than the first and second conjugation. So we'll use the verb, which is used a great deal in Latin. Loquor, loqui, locutus sum. It's third conjugation, and it means to speak. So, if you look at these endings, you'll see aris, termer, mittentur, and you'll see the vowels. A, e. So, eris, etur, emer, emini, entur. Loquar, loqueris, loquetur, loquemur, loquemini, loquentur. And if you do look at those vowels, and you've learned your third and fourth conjugation active future endings, then you'll see how the vowels line up perfectly with the active endings. So we have for capio, capiam, capies, capiet, capiemus, capietis, capient. So a, e, just the same. So I've decided to give you a mixture of first, second, and third conjugation verbs for the example sentences. So here are 5 more example sentences. They are available under the See More tab on YouTube, and I hope you have enjoyed this video and it has been informative for you. Walete, amici.